and welcome to another edition of the PHNX D-Backs podcast right here on PHNX. My name is Derek Montilla. Of course, I am your mayor of PHNX. This is the Thunderstick. He's Jesse Friedman. He's also the vice mayor. And we are bringing you, of course, the finest D-Backs coverage in all of the Valley. We are brought to you by the fine folks at the DraftKings Sportsbook app, America's top-rated sportsbook app. Jesse, we got some midseason awards to give away today,
we do.
Right?
We absolutely do.
You got the trophies? Did you get the trophy? Did you pick up the trophies? Did you get the trophies?
There were
there should have been trophies.
There's supposed to be trophies.
We paid for trophies.
This is my idea. Can't you carry your weight all around here, Derek?
I don't know. I don't do that. You know I don't do that. I'm just here to talk about the Arizona Diamondbacks and how bad the second half might be for this team.
Who are you giving these trophies to? Are you actually going to deliver our midseason awards to the players?
Do you think they would not like that? Do you think they wouldn't appreciate it?
If they had some sort of legitimacy, maybe, but coming from one of us, I don't know if that would be legit enough for them to want to actually accept that award.
What if it's bigger than the trophy that the WNBA gave to the MVP at their All-Star game?
I didn't see that.
It was
trophy.
A very small trophy. It was pathetic.
Okay.
Yes, and we'll give bigger trophies than that. Those girls deserved a gigantic trophy, but of course, someone that doesn't deserve a trophy is Dallas Keuchel, who has been DFA'd by the Arizona Diamondbacks. We had a feeling that this was going to happen, and it did kind of, right? I don't know. I feel like the Diamondbacks gave him enough opportunity, don't you think?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, 4 starts, a 9.64 ERA. Opposing hitters, Derek, against Dallas Keuchel when they were hitting, fared awfully well to the tune of a 329, 407, 564 batting line.
That's not very good.
I had someone reply on Twitter and say that Frank Thomas's career batting line was 301, 419, 555. So essentially, it was sort of like every batter against Dallas Keuchel was Frank Thomas, which
big hurt.
I think is kind of a heartless comparison to make. It's only 4 starts,
perfect.
But
no, it's perfect.
Unfortunately, it was a pretty rough go for Dallas Keuchel when he was here, and it sounds like Corbin Martin is going to be the guy that we're going to get in his place, according to John Gambadoro. He said, "Look for that to happen" yesterday, so that's what we're expecting.
Who was that?
John Gambadoro, the one and only.
The one and only.
He said look for Corbin Martin to step into the rotation, which I'm assuming is like the I'm 95% sure sort of thing coming from him.
I believe it from Gambo. He doesn't necessarily put stuff out there like that unless he's probably heard something. I think Corbin Martin, it makes sense. It's not.
Yeah.
I don't think it's somebody kind of out of left field. I think it's somebody that has major league time already. They did reinstate Ian Kennedy from the 15-day injured list, and they have reinstated J.B. Bukowskis from the 60-day injured list and have optioned him to AAA Reno.
Our first comment, what's the definition of insanity again? Welcome to the show, Ben. We're glad to have you here.
Good to have you. But yeah, it is what it is, right? They definitely gave him a chance, and honestly, the D-backs have a pretty good track record with acquiring guys that have kind of been let go by other teams and having them have value. Joe Mantiply being a big the great case for that. Noe Ramirez and a few other pitchers in their bullpen have definitely been exactly that for them.
And Corbin Martin's been really good in his last 2 starts. His last start on July 14th, so this is a week ago today, 8 innings, 4 hits, no runs, no walks, 6 strikeouts. If you're going 8 innings at a start pitching for the Reno Aces, you're definitely doing something right. And the start before that, 6 innings, 1 run, 3 walks, 7 strikeouts, only 2 hits allowed. So a couple starts before that, not quite as good. But he's certainly finished his time off in Reno on a high note. At least what we think is the end of his time in Reno for the time being.
Fingers crossed.
We'll see.
Tommy Henry's another name that a lot of fans want to see as well. Another guy that's had quite a good
and we will. I mean, I think we're going to see Tommy Henry at some point. I think it's only a matter of time. But yeah, it looks like we might not get that quite yet.
The D-backs do not have a game today. Another off day for them.
No, they don't.
Which not all of the teams in Major League Baseball have the luxury of saying. Some of them had to play a doubleheader today, which that kind of sucks, right? Coming out of the All-Star break and having to play a doubleheader. And not only that, but not even on the weekend, on Thursday, not even on Friday.
Yeah, it's a pretty brutal schedule for some teams today, but the D-backs are over here just lounging around with another off day. Although they are at the stadium today. They are taking batting practice.
I envision them like all around the pool right now, like just hanging out, listening to
they're
music.
not actually going to do any work while they're there. Today's more of a swimming party or something along those lines at Chase Field. But
I'm going to guarantee they don't use that pool enough for that.
You think?
Like just having a random like
the team
swim.
Yeah, the team probably doesn't use the swimming pool that much, I'm gonna guess.
It kind of makes sense. Speaking of schedule, though, the Diamondbacks have the third toughest schedule in the second half. So
great.
What do you think about that? Well, here is my thought: is the Diamondbacks obviously have stepped up against the talented teams. We've seen them do that. So I don't know if I'm that worried about them having the third toughest stretch in baseball after the All-Star break.
I mean, it starts with the Nationals, right? So you feel okay for maybe a few days.
Juan Soto and the Nationals.
Yeah, Juan Soto and who else? I mean,
I don't know, but that guy is locked in. I don't want to see him right now. I want to see the home run derby champion right after the home run derby. That's a bad time.
He did just win that thing, but the Nationals are 31-63. So,
I took the over on them winning 58.5 games.
Okay.
What do you think about that for the Nationals? Not the D-backs.
Oh, the Nationals winning over 50. For the D-backs, I was like, oh my gosh, I'd hope so.
That's a take.
Okay, so 31-63. Wow, that's bad. 31-63 is really bad. They're on pace to win 54, 53 games probably.
Sure. Right. That's it's got to be right around there because that's why they set the over/under right there. So tantalizing in the distance from 55 wins or something. You got 59 right there.
58.5.
Yeah, so they'd have to win 59 or more games. Do you see that happening?
I think I mean, any team finishing with like lower than 58.5 wins is just kind of unlikely in general. I know the Nationals are really bad. But the Diamondbacks won 52 games last year. So of course, here I am saying this. It is possible, but it doesn't happen much. I mean, baseball is a sort of game where even the worst of teams tend to find their way to 60 wins when it's all said and done. Yep. So, if the Nationals trade Juan Soto, it might be harder for them to get there. But this is the bet you made, Derek. So we'll see what happens.
Oh, Martinez says mid-season, this team is mid. That's tough criticism, but fair.
Yeah.
And I will say that Jesse actually has some pretty fair criticism of his own over at gophnx.com. If you haven't had a chance to check out his piece,
criticism.
Fair.
Is it all criticism? Is that all I write?
I think no, that's not necessarily the case.
Okay.
But you have a great opinion of this team, I think, and I feel like some of the work, especially you did with the draft picks, was phenomenal.
That one is up.
There's a lot of work put into that piece.
There are a lot of words in that article. Truth be told, I started with the intention of writing about all 20 draft picks after Drew Jones, rather than just the first 10. But it is pretty difficult. I mean, there is not that much information out there about some of those guys. And I think, realistically with how the MLB draft works, the first 10 rounds is probably where, not to say it's impossible for guys after that to make the big leagues. But, after the 10th round, the probability of that happening drops off quite a bit. And there's also a fair number of those guys in the second half of the draft that probably won't sign anyway. So I focused on the first 10 rounds, but yeah, it was fun to write. There's some good solid talent in there, and the Diamondbacks targeted a lot of college guys in those first 10 rounds. So some guys you might see in the majors a little bit sooner than later.
And of course, you can get that over at gophnx.com. If you haven't signed up to become a member yet, sign up, get an annual membership. You'll get a free t-shirt over at the PHNXLocker.com. Or if you sign up for a month-to-month membership, you will get your first month for just 50 cents. Regardless of your membership status, you will get access to the members-only discounts over at the PHNX Locker, the fine content from writers like Jesse, and of course, the members-only Discord, which is always a poppin' place to be. We thank you guys in the Discord, by the way. You guys have been keeping us up to date on this team for sure. At things that I didn't even see how poorly the Diamondbacks were graded, but thanks to our Discord, I got to check that article out. And of course, we will get to your grades as well as ESPN's grades on this team this year. But before we get to that, Jesse and I had some first half awards for the Arizona Diamondbacks that we wanted to give out. Just a couple of I guess pieces of recognition for this team. We already did get some awards earlier, but this is now based on a solid first half and going into the All-Star game. Of course, we saw him kind of fizzle out there a little bit beforehand, but it's to be predicted. And this team, of course, is on pace for what we expected them, I think, to do this season. But let's take a look at some of our awards. Are we going to go? Do we have the most valuable player first?
Yes, we do.
Do we want to start with there?
Yep.
Yeah, let's start with the most valuable player. It looks like Jesse and I agreed on this one. It's Merrill Kelly.
Oh, wow. You said Merrill. Wow.
I also said Merrill
Kelly.
Kelly.
Expect to agree on this one necessarily.
Yeah. Well, how do you not? I mean, at this point, Merrill Kelly has been by far the most consistent player. The start of his season was great. I mean, he came back down to earth a bit, but he
had like a 1.5 ERA.
They all did for like a month. It was insane.
The whole pitching staff did. Yes. Merrill Kelly is a 3.26 ERA. He has 9 wins. He's on pace to have like a 16 win season, which is something the Diamondbacks have not had many starters do recently.
Something Zach Gallen can't even imagine.
Oh, Zach Gallen. No, that would be like 4 seasons put together for Zach Gallen. Poor guy. Merrill is just he is just the model of consistency.
For sure.
Merrill the mainstay, right? That's what Bert calls him on the TV side, and he's absolutely deserving of that title. He's been, even though Zach Gallen, I think, gets a lot of the hype, and, he's the future ace of the staff and all this stuff, Merrill Kelly has been the Diamondbacks' most reliable starting pitcher, really, for the last few years.
By far.
Really, ever since he got here. Even in, he went through some bumps in the road early on, but
I mean, he even went through something incredible, which Jesse wrote about when it comes to
thoracic outlet surgery. He worked his way back from that and has been really as good as ever since.
He literally had a rib removed.
He did have a rib removed.
He had a rib removed
and
this team.
He didn't want to take the rib home. Like, if you had a rib removed,
I'd frame it.
Yeah.
How do you not frame it on the wall?
Yeah.
I mean, come on. I'd put it in a shadow box with maybe a little document from the hospital where we did the surgery at or something.
There you go.
I'd make it adorable.
Yeah, for some reason, Merrill said he didn't want it. He wanted to leave that part of his life behind him. So somewhere Merrill Kelly's rib still
it's somewhere.
It's floating in a little jar, presumably. I don't know what they do with those things afterwards.
How much would it go for on eBay?
I'd rather not.
I'd rather not.
Okay,
all right,
that.
that's fine. That's fine. Moving on, we have more awards to give out. We got our most improved player, and again, we agree again on Joe Mantiply. I don't see how you couldn't, right? Joe Mantiply has been an incredible story for this team, but more than anything, he has an incredible season. O Martinez wants to buy his rib. We'll figure out.
Is that Merrill Kelly's rib or Joe Mantiply's rib?
Oh, I assume
we're talking about.
We're talking about. Well, I mean, no, we're not having thoracic outlet surgery just to be giving ribs away. Okay, so it'd have to be. Look, see, now everybody wants a rib. But Joe Mantiply obviously has had an incredible season. Again, he came down to earth there. He was doing some superhuman things at one point this season, but when you set a Major League Baseball record, like I said, for this godforsaken sport that's been around for like 1,000 years, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah. I mean, his ERA is like more than doubled in the last like couple of weeks leading up to the All-Star break. So his numbers looked a lot better than this not that long ago. But yeah, I mean, 38 strikeouts compared to 2 walks. He's faced more than 100 batters here this season and has walked 2 of them, which is just insane. So the trade rumors are swirling, Derek. So we'll see if Joe Mantiply is still here in a couple weeks. I know he gave a pretty darn good audition in the All-Star game with a
really
3 up, 3 down, 9 pitch inning. So we'll have to see.
If it was a Mr. Universe contest, he went out and flexed on them hard, Jesse. He flexed those muscles. Ben says too many ribs, not enough RBIs. Am I right? Oh my God. I love this chat. All right. Best single game performance. What do we got? Nah, we did it again.
Did we agree again?
We did it again.
Oh my gosh.
Well, how do you not? 3 home runs.
3 home runs.
At Wrigley Field, especially a place that Josh Rojas wanted to play so bad. He didn't get the opportunity to go there on the road trip last season. And man, did he show up and show out in his debut. What that was his debut there, right?
Or maybe it was the second game. Yeah.
It was his first series
there
for
sure. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, the wind was hardcore blowing out that day at Wrigley Field.
There were a lot of home runs.
There were like
hitting that
10
series.
home runs hitting this game, but no, we're not here to take anything away from Josh Rojas. A 3-homer game is special, no matter where it happens, no matter how much the wind is blowing out of the ballpark. So that was a fun game for him that I know he's going to remember for a long time.
Absolutely. And I'm proud of us. Look at us. It's like we do a show together and talk about this stuff.
Yeah,
all the time
we're a lot more in sync here than I wish we disagree on one of these.
I know.
Gosh.
We'll see what's happening. I think we do. We got one.
Yeah, spoiler alert. That's where the agreement ends.
All right, let's go. Best defender.
Do we want Derek or Jesse first?
We'll take Jesse's first.
All right.
Jesse's best defender.
We disagree
Christian
on
Walker.
this?
Yeah, we did. Just
if
a
you
little
pick
bit.
someone else, you're just wrong.
I mean, here's the thing: is I knew you were going to pick Christian Walker because obviously his 13
Because
defensive.
that's the right answer.
It's the 13 defensive runs saved, right? But
sure.
Again, defensive runs saved is a stat that none of us have any idea what that means. We have no idea what goes into that, Jesse.
That's fair. That's fair. I mean, it's fairly basic, right? 13 defensive runs saved. Theoretically, I mean, this is not like you couldn't track through his season and pick out all the 13 runs that he saved exactly. That's not really how it's meant to work.
Right,
but
for sure.
It's supposed to be like an estimate of the number of runs that a player saved over like an average defender at their position.
It's like WAR in a way, right?
Sort of. Yeah, it's a comparison with like a replacement level sort of player. And some guys wind up with negative defensive runs saved. Which means that they are, below average when it comes to their defense. So, but Christian Walker, Derek, I mean, he is not only among the leaders at first base in some of these defensive categories, he's among the leaders in all of baseball, which is wild because he's a first baseman. And first basemen
they just
are
don't
almost
have that opportunity to get that many defensive runs.
It's really hard to be an impactful defensive player at first base. You can kind of do the most with the opportunities you have, but it's hard to be up there with shortstops and center fielders when it comes to the best defenders in the game. According to the numbers, Christian Walker is like in the top 10 in all of baseball among all positions in both of those stats, and outs above average and defensive runs saved. So I think it's sort of a no-brainer that Christian Walker is the best at least the most valuable defensive player on this team this year.
Oh, I've been saying WAR like war for a long time, by the way. What is it? Is it WAR? Am I saying?
No, I think the way that you just said it, you had said WAR.
I said WAR.
Yeah, because it definitely caught me off guard a little bit.
WAR. But we also have my best defender, which I think is allowable.
Oh, that's fair.
When it comes to Alek Thomas, I went with the most electric defender. Is what I went with. We imagined what we would see out of Alek Thomas in center field, and what he's doing exceeds that by far. I think that just how comfortable he is with making some of those plays, like in that graphic right there, some of those wall catches that he's made, that he makes look effortless, that honestly most center fields we've seen play the position wouldn't even make an attempt at that, or would look foolish in doing so.
He's just insanely athletic.
It's incredible.
And I mean, to be fair, if you were to put Christian Walker in center field and have him try to make some of those same plays, they would certainly not be made. So
there it is.
Christian Walker is the best at like what he does, but if you put him in a harder spot, he probably would not be as successful. So
apparently now I'm Wario. All right.
Go.
Most chaotic moment this season.
There we go.
I mean, come on.
I think I probably know what yours is going to be, but let's not forget this one.
This one was one of two, and John Libka absolutely lost his mind.
He absolutely did. So this is the situation where Zach Gallen and John Libka, they're kind of getting at it a little bit. Zach Gallen's not so happy about some of these borderline pitches not going his way, and then John Libka, I think it's in between at bats, starts to literally walk up and approach the Diamondbacks starting pitcher, and Jose Herrera, the Diamondbacks catcher, has to get in his way and try to protect his pitcher from the umpire, which is a bizarre thing to happen.
To this day, I wonder what he said, what John Libka said, out loud, because you don't just get up and do that based on the umpire walking around you and getting ready to talk to Gallen. I feel like there was this motherfucker slipped in there or something, right? Just something that made him go.
I'm sure.
There was something that made Jose Herrera go, uh-oh, This is about to go crazy. And it almost did. It kind of did.
What do you think happens if Herrera doesn't get in the way? Like if the ump actually gets to Gallen?
Well, my thought is that
do we have John Lipka and Zach Gallen like throwing punches at each other?
No, but I think he tosses
Imagine.
Gallen. I think Gallen would take offense to John Lipka walking out and kind of stepping up to him like that.
Yeah.
So I think Gallen at that point, even though he's for the most part like a pretty calm guy, like he's one of the most laid back pitchers the Diamondbacks have.
He's not Mad Bum out there,
right?
Like,
but I feel like there's a point where you feel like someone's crossed the line.
Yeah.
And it almost felt like Lipka was trying to bait him into that.
Yeah.
Right? Which is exactly what we saw with my most chaotic moment, which was the hand massage.
Of course.
I don't know how you don't think of this, because as chaotic as that was, Gallen stayed on the mound. The Diamondbacks lost Mad Bum over this crazy shit. They tossed him after 1 inning pitched. That was one of the craziest things I ever seen. This was chaotic for me because I was running around my house, like trying to understand what was going on. It didn't make any sense to me. They like cut to a commercial break while the whole thing was going on. So, and that was getting stuff on Twitter that was saying Mad Bum had been tossed. It was wild. But again, it was another moment of an umpire just really stepping kind of over the line and then kind of again baiting the starting pitcher into that situation, right?
Yeah, we got a John Boy breakdown out of this situation. So like, was it really bad in the end? Anything that leads to a John Boy breakdown is always fun in my mind. But yeah, Dan Bellino just went absolutely berserk.
Dan Bellino lost his mind.
Yeah,
and that was weird. What both of these situations were, right? Like both of these situations were like what really started it. Like with Mad Bum, I think Dan Bellino actually admitted that it was the fact that there was a rookie umpire behind home plate, and that Mad Bum's kind of gripes towards him, he felt like he was kind of, I guess, sticking up for him or whatever, right? But
right.
Obviously, to me, what he was admitting is that he was taking into personal feelings and the way people were talking to people and stuff when literally baiting Mad Bum into getting tossed out of the game. It's wild shit.
Yeah, that was. I mean, I think that's probably the craziest, like maybe even most memorable moment to come out of this season. That and the Seth Beer opening day situation.
God.
Most memorable. That's probably the most memorable.
That was a pretty chaotic situation for me and Mac because we were right in the middle of it out there on Jefferson. So that was a lot of fun.
People like trying to make out with you as they were walking by.
There was a woman that kissed me live on air, and I'm still trying to find her. So I'm on Twitter at @cap_caveman with a K. That's all I'm putting out there. Of course. If you guys have your own moments, please send them to us on Twitter. We'd love to talk about it. We're going to talk about your grades for the D-backs in the first half. But of course, we want to let you guys know the show is brought to you by our friends at OG's Gummies. If you haven't tried them already, make sure to find OG's near you at a dispensary near you. Must be 21 years or older to purchase, but they do have a wonderful variety of gummies. They are Arizona's top-selling gummy, and they are flavoring life. That's what they're all about. Their gummies are delicious, and they have a wide variety of flavors for you to choose from. Not to mention they have doses and strains for you to choose from as well, depending on what you're looking to do. Today's a relaxed day. You want to chill indica? Well, then if you want to get hype for tomorrow watching the D-backs game, there's a sativa in your future as well. And like I said, they have a wonderful variety of flavors. So make sure to check out OG's Brands online at ogsbrands.com or on Instagram at OG's Brands. That's OGEEZ Brands. You can find their products at your local dispensary. Again, must be 21 years or older to purchase. And also, our friends at Four Peaks, where we will be next Wednesday. All of us, not me, not just this guy, everybody. Jacob, Sean DePaz, ASU crew, Cardinals, everybody will be there. We will be hanging out, bringing you all of our shows live from Four Peaks, especially our show, which will be, I think we're slated last because we will be doing our post-series show next Wednesday as well. So make sure to come down to Four Peaks, join us. If you can't join us on YouTube, grab yourself some Four Peaks from your local convenience store. They have a wide variety of beers to offer. And of course, it's amazing. But we are all going to be here at Four Peaks 8th Street Pub. That's 1304 East 8th Street in Tempe all day on July 27th. So again, make sure to join us. Come on down. I'm going to be going off to Disneyland the next day. So give me advice on surviving that as a parent. It's not easy.
That is an undertaking.
Advice: just go to the cars ride. You get to kill 2 hours in line, but it's worth it.
Hey,
so
I like that.
The cars ride is amazing, and also you get to stand still for a little while.
I like it. By the way, you got to be 21 years or older and enjoy responsibly the Four Peaks. Also, we have our Toast of the Month sweepstakes at gophnx.com, where you can win yourself a Four Peaks $50 gift card, a PHNX shirt of your choice, and a PHNX annual membership. So make sure to go to gophnx.com and sign up to win that. We just gave away our Star Wars t-shirt or button-up shirt. That was the big prize this month, right?
Oh, yeah. That was highly sought after.
But, of course, we have your guys' grades for this. We have your guys' grades for the first half. We saw an article on ESPN giving grades to the D-backs where they gave the Arizona Diamondbacks a D+ for the first half of their season.
Yikes.
Pretty scathing, a little judgmental. I think a big part of this obviously is that they don't really care about the fact that this is the same team from last year, essentially.
Yeah.
With some missing components that has done a much better job this year than last year. So, but I get where they're coming from. I don't think this is too far off base, considering that the team is 12 games below 500.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems to me like it doesn't really take into account the expectations for the team.
Correct.
I mean, I think if you had told any of us that the Diamondbacks are going to be 40-52 at the halfway point, like, we wouldn't be stoked. I mean, we wouldn't be like, oh my gosh, that's incredible. But I think we would think of that as being probably an above average outcome, right?
After last season, for sure.
Yeah, after last season. So
what would you put your grade at for this team?
I'm between a C+ and a B-. I think it's one of those two.
Yeah.
I would maybe I'll lean in. I think I'll probably say a B- just because the Diamondbacks have made some pretty big strides this season as a team. And that's not to say that they are a finished product or anywhere close to being a true contender in this league yet. But if you were looking at what you wanted out of the 2022 season realistically, you're not going to go from 52 wins to 95, right? You're not going to go from 52 wins to 85. And the Diamondbacks are on pace to go from 52 wins to 70. And in my mind, that's not that's not perfect. That's not the very best that I could have imagined. I pegged them to win 75 games this season, but 70 is pretty close to that. And 75 was even pretty bullish at the beginning to predict that the team would win 23 more games than they did last year. So there's still some things to be worked out. I think the bullpen has faltered in a lot of ways. It's sort of Joe Mantiply, Kyle Nelson, and then everyone else who's just been pretty up and down over there. But all in all, I mean, I think we've seen some good things from this team this season, and I think it's been a pretty good stepping stone for them.
Nicholas in the comments said a C+ seems more fair. They are who we thought they were, maybe a little bit better from last year. And I think that's where I'm at. I think I'm around a C+. And again, if this team can win 20 or more games than they did last season, I can't see how you can't give them a B or better, right? Because it really is about digging your way kind of out of a hole you're in. The Diamondbacks didn't go out and get any high-priced free agents. They added Mark Melancon and Ian Kennedy, both of which really arguably haven't worked, right? Like, they haven't been great.
Really.
They haven't been the back-end bullpen guys that they wanted them to be, where they could confidently rely on them to, close games. And I have a couple squeak through, but I feel like with Melancon now, within the organization, they have to be feeling that same amount of anxiety that we as fans feel watching him come in and try to close out a game, right?
Yeah.
So, but I do like the direction of the team. I do think that they did good things this season. I like that they have basically secured their future with the extensions that they gave to Merrill Kelly and Keuchel Marte. Alek Thomas coming up and being allowed to not only stay here and thrive, but to learn from his mistakes and not have, obviously he has options left. He could be sent back down, but he's one of the best hit players on this team. And even if he does have a bit of a regression, it's worthwhile to just leave him up here and have him, not have that up and down experience that a lot of minor leaguers go through when they get called up.
Yeah.
It's totally a natural part of, your progression as a minor leaguer to be sent back down. But Alek Thomas, to me, just doesn't seem like that.
Yeah. I wouldn't expect that to happen.
We've seen it across, Spencer Torkelson got sent down. There's a couple of great minor league players that have been sent down already by their teams.
Ben said in the comments, what's most disappointing is a lot of the young hitters not hitting very well, which I do understand. I mean, I think Alek Thomas has sort of been pretty respectable, right? Like in his first year at 22 years old, I wasn't necessarily expecting him to hit 300 or anything right out of the gate. But there are some guys. I mean, I think it looked like Dalton Varsho was on the verge of a breakout season, and we haven't really seen that from him. His numbers offensively this year are eerily similar to where they were last year. Maybe even a touch below that point. So I think you'd like to see some better things there. Pavin Smith is another name that comes to mind as a guy that, you wondered if he might be a part of the future here. And he still absolutely could be, but it just hasn't, what he was before getting sent down to Reno. And unfortunately now he has the injury. He just wasn't a guy that looked like he was part of your future. So, and then, Seth Beer as well. That's another name that there was all sorts of hype and, things looked great for him early in the season, but it didn't last very long. And he sort of struggled in Reno through this season.
Yeah, for sure. And not only that, but I think Chris Melton said it in the chat. We spent money on staff. I stand by my B+. I like her saying that. And I mean, honestly, that's really what it comes down to is what Brent Strom's done with the pitchers. And honestly, Joe Mather is relatively inexperienced. This is his first stint as a pitching coach. I still think that he's done.
You mean hitting
coach? Excuse me, my fault. Yeah, hitting coach as the actual hitting coach. But I feel like I still feel like he has made a big impact on this team. And again, I don't know. I mean, in some cases, you talk about the number of coaches that players on this team have had over the last 4 years.
Yeah,
it's kind of been a bit of a merry-go-round at times. So. It takes a little while for stuff to resonate. And I know I said that early on. I'm not giving that as an excuse any longer, but I still think that Joe Mather has done a great job at improving the offense from what we saw last season that at times was abysmal. I think who was it that had the most home runs last year? And wasn't it like 15 or something?
I mean, it depends on if Eduardo Escobar counts or not.
Oh, yeah.
I think he had the most, but guys on the active roster, it was not a very high number. It was probably in the low teens, something like that.
But we have your grades for the first half of the season, and let's take a look at some of those. Our friend Charles, Cactus on Ice, he sends a C. The offense struggles to produce consistently, and I don't trust anyone in the bullpen not named Mantiply, and even he's starting to show cracks in recent games, but at least they are completely crapping themselves like last year. I think he means they aren't. And he's right about that. That's very true. And again, I think C is fair. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, I think a C grade is fair. What else do we got? King of the Pours. That's our buddy Ron. Ron says C+. It's refreshing to have young guys playing every day instead of letting past their prime veterans stealing at bats. They have to clean up their play against LA, San Diego, because some of those games have been outright unwatchable. Yeah. Well said. Especially against the Dodgers.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Chris says, I'm actually going B+ here, which he said in the chat. While I have big feelings about bullpen and starting pitching depth, the team is largely what I expected. I see potential and growth in this placeholder season, which, again, I think she definitely is right about that. Jacob Franklin from here at PHNX says a solid B. Exciting team to watch, letting the kids play. And I think that's going to be a theme. I think we're all excited about seeing Buddy Kennedy and Alek Thomas and Geraldo Perdomo and some of these young guys play. Even if they're not having the best season, it's about them growing and getting better every day as Major League Baseball players.
Yeah, I think we want to see more of that youth movement, right, going into the second half. I mean, that's going to be a huge part of this season down the stretch too. So yeah, that's a big one for sure.
And that's a big part of Kyle Collins' B+ that he gave, doing what a team not in contention should be doing, letting the young kids play. Varshy, Alek, Perdomo. Starting pitching is showing improvements, and the bullpen isn't a complete disaster. It could go up to an A- if they handle the deadline well. And I wonder what let us know in the comments what you guys think of the trade deadline. I mean, obviously Christian Walker's name is now being thrown around. Joe Mantiply, it's the best players on the team, of course. Yeah. But again, there's not a worse. I don't think it's a bad scenario considering that the Diamondbacks do have, young players that would get an opportunity to play. But Christian Walker, that kind of bums me out. He's had an outstanding season for this team, and I hate to see him go at this point. But those home runs are very, very enticing. It's very sexy to a team right now who might be looking to add some power to their lineup. And of course, you don't know if he's going to continue this hot streak that he's been on, because he's on a bit of an unprecedented power streak for at least his career.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, Christian Walker is, I think everyone's kind of understood that the raw power is in there, but he hasn't necessarily shown it in a season consistently. I think he hit 29 home runs back in 2019, had a decent year in 2020 as well. But yeah, I mean, this is the first year where he's genuinely on pace to hit, upwards of 40 home runs. I think that's about what he's on pace for right now. So, other teams are going to be interested in him, Derek. Gambo sent out a tweet earlier today saying that Zach Davey, or I think it was Joe Mantiply and Christian Walker, were the ones drawing the most interest, with Zach Davies also in the mix along with David Peralta. So, it's really tricky to figure out what Christian Walker's value will be. Just because he is a right-handed hitting first baseman. He's about to make a lot more money in arbitration because of all the home runs. So, he's not like a slam dunk. You can ask for a king's ransom at the trade deadline sort of a situation.
Right.
But he's definitely a player that teams are going to be interested in. And the fact that he's, one of the best defenders in all of baseball, according to the numbers, is definitely going to help his case.
And I think we got a couple of more grades. Or just this scathing one.
Wow.
F. It's an F until you're 500. No exceptions, says George Alper. Cannot be denied. Wow, you're a tough teacher. I would hate to land in your class. I have a feeling there's no curve there. I don't know. I mean, I'm to an extent, I get what he's saying. Like, you want to see a team be at least 500, and it's hard to think of them having a successful season if they're not. But you can't just expect it. You can't just expect it to happen overnight from one season to the next.
Yeah.
The Orioles are making that happen somehow, some way right now.
They are.
Who knows if they can even keep it up for the second half. But you can bet on the second half, all sorts of future options and other great enticing bets over at the DraftKings Sportsbook app. If you haven't signed up already, do so using our code of PHNX. You make a deposit, you'll get a risk-free bet up to $1,000. That's promo code PHNX. Only at the DraftKings Sportsbook. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details. Jesse, they also have some options on there to bet on the World Series champion based on state.
Interesting.
So you can throw a bet on New York, and if the Mets or the Yankees win it, then you win your bet. Oh. Same thing with California and a couple of other states that have some pretty good contenders in there. So that's an interesting bet. But do you want to take a guess on who the betting odds favorite is for the National League MVP?
I'd rather not.
You know who it is. It's Paul Goldschmidt.
It is Paul Goldschmidt.
It's Paul Goldschmidt, you guys. So we'll see. That's interesting to me because he is for the NL and Shohei Ohtani is for the AL. And I'm not saying that they aren't the best players in those divisions, because right now they are.
Yeah.
But does it mean the same thing if you don't lead your team to the playoffs? I mean, does that impact an MVP vote for you personally, not leading your team to the playoffs? Because here's what I think. I understand how a player can still be very valuable on a bad team. I get that.
Yeah.
But I also feel like, how much value are you adding when your team lost 100 games?
Yeah, I just don't really think baseball works that way, though.
I know.
Like if Paul Goldschmidt has like a 8 or 9 wins above replacement season, like objectively, he had an incredible season. And the fact that his teammates were not good enough to take him to the playoffs, potentially. I mean, the Cardinals certainly could.
Sure. Oh, yeah, they're going to be in their mix for sure.
Yeah, they'll probably be in
the
mix.
But like Ohtani, there's a perfect example
is
of
more,
that, right? With the Angels probably not winning more than 75 games. And Ohtani, but he is the most valuable. He's the most valuable player in my heart.
Yeah.
I love him.
I don't think
I adore him. He's not even on my team.
I don't think it can really matter how many wins they come away with. It's just not, in baseball, it's just not a bearing of who you are as a player. In other sports, I think you could make a case that it is, but in baseball, it is a team sport, but not in the same way that other sports are.
One of the newest Arizona Diamondbacks, Brett Johnson, tweeted 2013 D-backs were mid as AF, But Goldie 100% deserved MVP over Kutch, and he's totally right about that.
Yeah.
So I guess that pokes a hole in my entire point I guess I was making. But I'm not surprised to see those guys as betting odds favorites. Just at times for me, when the MVP comes around for any sport, I feel like that's a factor. At least to me. But
it's definitely going to play into the conversation for sure.
Motion says it should be called the Best Player Award. He's right. That's what it should be called. I like that much better.
Wow, Ben says hot take: Sandy Alcantara should win both NL Cy Young and MVP.
Wow.
Honestly, I mean, if we're really treating it as MVP, like, has anyone in the National League been as valuable as Sandy Alcantara?
Nope.
I mean, he's throwing like 8 innings every single time out.
Not at all.
It's pretty crazy what that guy's done.
Not at all. But of course, we thank you guys for checking out the show. Of course, you can follow us on Twitter. I'm at cap_caveman with a K. Jesse is at Jesse N. Friedman. Our show is at PHNX_DBacks, but of course, all roads lead to at PHNX_sports on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. We thank you again for having lunch with us on behalf of Jesse and myself. You guys have yourselves a great day. And remember, kids, baseball is fun, but it's so much more fun when you give the Diamondbacks a higher grade than an F for not being at 500 at the All-Star break.